Felicia and I like scary movies, and today I am freaking thrilled to be talking about the Etheria Film Festival. So, this is a film festival that typically takes place in LA in June, and it showcases horror, sci-fi, thrillers, dark comedies, etc., but all directed by women. So, you know, my favorite. Now, along with some other film festivals, because of the virus, they are taking this baby online, and they have partnered with our BFF, Shudder. So basically, Shudder and Etheria Film Festival have taken the 9 shorts that were chosen for the 2020 selection, put them together in like a 2-ish hour compilation. But even though this virus is the biggest bummer of all time, I am trying to take some of these opportunities to check out filmmakers and films that I may not have seen otherwise. Now, what I'm basically going to do is take you through each film. I don't know if I'm going to be doing this in the correct order. I'm sure I won't be. But I'm just going to take you through each film, kind of what I thought about it, what it's about, and a little bit about the filmmaker. So this should be fun. Okay, so let's get started. The first one I watched is called Waffle, and it is directed by Carolyn Hudson. It is a dark comedy, and it's about Carrie, who's at a sleepover with a super awkward girl named Katie, who is an orphaned heiress of waffles? Waffle makers? Waffle mix? Unclear. But this one sort of has a Black Mirror-esque look at what we will do for friendship and companionship, and also what we will do for money. And what I liked most about this one is just how much they packed into this 10 minutes. I was laughing multiple times, I was freaked out, and I was surprised multiple times. Like, they kind of got me a few times, and that's very impressive. I also have to just say one of my favorite lines in this short, which is talking about this girl Carrie, and that she has a background gig at funerals, and the idea of people being paid to sit at funerals of people that didn't have a big enough audience when they died is so dark and hilarious to me. I was like, I love this filmmaker. So this is Carolyn Hudson. Hello. And she is originally from Texas, but currently lives in LA. It looks like she's directed a few shorts and also some web series stuff on College Humor. She seems to have done a lot of comedy, and actually on her website, she lists Waffle as a horror comedy, and I think that's actually more accurate than just a dark comedy. I think there's enough horror elements in there to call it horror. Okay, next up we have an Australian filmmaker named Mia Kate Russell, and her film was called Maggie May, and this baby was dark. The only description that's listed for this one is the line, "Sometimes doing nothing can be the worst move of all." And it's hard because I don't want to give away too much plot to you guys, but it is about these, I think they're sisters, these 2 sisters, who at the beginning of the short lose their mother, and they're sort of at like the, what is that called? I almost said funeral after party, and if that does not tell you a lot about my personality, I don't know what will. Awake? I think it's awake. So basically, something happens to the one sister, Sam. I will not say what because it is shocking. And our other sister, Maggie, has basically no interest in anything. She has this like intense apathy about life and the world that comes through with so little actual text and so much in her actions or lack of action. This one also like made me do the most thinking, I guess. Made me think about the world and my life. But there's definitely this idea of lack of action, of apathy, almost being a narcissistic thing where a character only thinks that their actions or lack of actions affect themselves, but it actually affects everyone around them. It actually reminds me so much of one of the big protest chants that is happening right now, which is silence is violence. And by deciding not to do or say anything, that is you making a choice. And that is you condoning violence or condoning the bad thing that is happening. Also, I had this idea that Maggie May could also be a representation of like anxiety and depression and like the lack of ability to do things and how that can affect your life. I don't know. That might just be in my own quarantine brain full of anxiety and sadness. Okay, and for a little about the filmmaker, like I said, she is Australian, Mia Kate Russell. It looks like she's a very accomplished makeup artist, which I think is very cool. She's done makeup on 72 films, which is badass. And she has started directing, it looks like in 2012. But I thought this short was very well done, incredibly unsettling and strange. Like, it literally made me so uncomfortable, which is correct. All right, next up we have Basic Witch, which was directed by Yoko Okamura. And first of all, this girl's website is stunning and makes me want to watch everything she's ever made. And this one is so funny because when it started, the short starts off with this girl making a pumpkin spice latte, but she's a witch, so it's very magical and very cute, adorable, if you will. And I was kind of like, okay, all right, I'm here. And then a couple minutes in, it kind of blew my damn mind. And by the end, I was like, this is brilliant. So basically, this girl, Lily, she has sex with this guy, and the next morning, she makes this magical pumpkin spice latte. I will not tell you what it does, but she's trying to express to him and help him understand why the sexual experience from the night before was not good for her. But this short for me was like the best look at or conversation with the idea of consent that I think I've ever seen, because it really lets the viewer, first of all, it's a comedy. I forgot to say that. But it really lets the viewer look at a very complicated situation, kind of have this conversation between this guy and this girl who had very different experiences of the same sexual encounter. But I think it did such a good job having the conversation that consent versus rape is not necessarily such a black and white discussion. It can be confusing even for the people involved, but ultimately it's about how something made the other person feel. And I'll leave you there. I've rambled a bit, but it's a really good short. I liked it a lot. A little about Yoko. She was born in Japan, but grew up in the US. Overall, it looks like she's made some very cool stuff. She even directed an episode of 50 States of Fright, which is the Sam Raimi's Quibi horror anthology. I know there's like drama or whatever about Quibi. I don't exactly know what it is. But overall, I also just really like her aesthetic. It seems very similar to my own. Okay, next up we have a short called Conversion Therapist, and this is by Bears Rebecca Fonte, and it's basically about a pansexual, polyamorous trio, who kidnap a evangelical conversion therapy dude and torture him until he sees what he's doing is wrong. This one is extremely brutal and, like I said, has all these torture elements to it, but it does have, I think, a cathartic element to it as well. Oh, I should also say Bears Rebecca Fonte is trans, and so having this director and these characters take a person, a conversion therapist, who has totally traumatized people of the LGBTQ community, and then torturing this person representing this on screen for 20 minutes. It is blunt, but I think it is cathartic in a way that is very powerful. A little bit about Bears. They are a producer, writer, and director. They seem to have done some pretty cool shorts and also run their own festival in Austin, Texas called Other Worlds. I'm actually gonna click on it. Ooh, it's a sci-fi film fest. That's fun. Okay, our next film is from the Netherlands, and it's called Offbeat. It was directed by, and I'm sorry about this pronunciation, Meerte Owerkerk. That's a guess. This is a sci-fi one, and a very, it's so funny, the opening sequence of this one has a bunch of people outside in face masks, and I was just like, how did she know? But in this, we're actually looking at pollution, and in the future, it's become such a problem that people literally can't breathe. And it follows this young drummer named Ollie who wants to get inside the dome. And basically the dome is some sort of habitat, is that the word I'm looking for? That has clean and fresh air that if you pass all these tests, you can get to go live in the dome with other people. It's also clear through the series of tests that they're only looking for people that basically have no unique qualities to them at all, that are perfectly ripe for breeding. Of these computers clearly making the choice of who has the right to fresh air to thrive in this dome and who has to go outside and live in the pollution and probably die out there. Can't remember if I said, but this is a sci-fi one, and I thought very powerful. In terms of Meerte's other work, it looks like she's done a couple of other shorts. I couldn't find too much, but I did find her Instagram, and she looks totally adorable. I might just follow her if that's not weird. followed. I'm honestly not sure how old she is, but she looks really young. And if she's putting out this level of work now, like I cannot wait to see what she does next. Next up we have The Final Girl Returns, which seems to be the most cut and dry horror short of the bunch. This was directed by Alexandria Perez. And it's about a male driver who comes out of this massacre unscathed, as it says here, and finds himself trapped in an endless cycle of saving final girls. So he basically is driving in this deserty road. He stops for a final girl who's covered in blood. She gets in the car and he drives her to safety. And that's sort of his job, and it happens over and over and over and over again with a bunch of different girls. And it's sort of this idea, I think, that he's trying to like outrun something. This one, I'm not gonna say I didn't understand it, but apparently I didn't really understand it. I think it's that this guy is like sort of fighting the tropes of horror in terms of like the final girl saving herself. Like he keeps trying to save her, but ultimately she has to save herself. But I don't really understand like his placement and journey and like the final girl legend. You know what I mean? Trope. But I will say I really like the horror aspects of this one, that it feels a little more like at home with what I typically talk about on my channel, and I like the aesthetic of it. I think it's like this cool car out in the desert. I don't know. It's pretty cool. But after you guys watch it, let me know what you think about that one. All right, next up we have Live, and this is written, directed, and stars Taryn O'Neill. This is another sci-fi one, and this, similar to the first one I talked about, has a very Black Mirror-esque feeling to it. It's about an online live caster or streamer, if you will, whose brand of streaming is very dangerous in multiple ways. And this one is definitely looking at like social media and clickbait and things like that, and like what people will do for likes, for views. And in this world where apparently jobs are very limited, it's like if you don't get those likes and views, you don't have the money to live your life. And so we have this character wrestling with the idea of what will she or will she not do for the views, for the money. What does she consider pushing the boundaries too far? What does she consider like okay? And her choices on that are very interesting in this short. But for sure, as a YouTuber and someone that makes online content, I was very interested in this one. A little about Taryn. This seems to be her writer-director short debut, but she is a very accomplished actress. She has over 42 credits on her IMDb, and I really think she did a great job with this short. I think it's very effective. Okay, next up we have Man in the Corner. This was directed by Kelly Breslin. Now this is her directorial debut, but she is a writer on this TV series You, which I've watched both seasons of and love. If you've seen You, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you liked it. But she also seems to be a working actress as well. So multi-talented ladies on this list. Now this one is like uncomfortable and also made me laugh so many times. But it's basically about a hookup where we enter the scene in the middle of a hookup. It's very hot and heavy. Like so hot and heavy. And the hookup eventually sort of turns into a nightmare when they realize that someone else is in the house and trying to join in on the action. Is that how I'll say it? But this one definitely has some nightmare fuel for you, and also has that sort of dream state quality of like the logical thing you have in a dream. You're like, is this okay? This is not okay. Is this okay? This is not okay. All right, and last but not least, we have Ava in the End, and this is by Ursula Ellis. And this is, once again, I know I keep saying Black Mirror-esque, but it's because a lot of these are sci-fi and they're also shorts. I don't know. But basically this girl accidentally trips in her house and dies, and then is put into a virtual purgatory. And it's sort of like this idea in the future of your soul can sort of be put on hold in a virtual purgatory, like a cloud, if that makes sense. Which is fascinating and will probably happen one day, so that's crazy. But this one is quite calming and beautiful to look at, but then also quite sinister when you start dissecting what the character is actually going through. So I really like the contrast of it, of like the virtual purgatory being this very calm and beautiful place, but what actually is going on is quite scary. And I think that's it, people. So once again, this is coming to Shudder on June 19th. When the 19th arrives, I will link that in the description of this video, but I think you guys are really gonna enjoy this. As always, I want to be supporting female directors. That's really important to me. But also this compilation, I think, has something for everyone. So I feel like no matter what your taste in horror is, you're going to find something in here that you like. Now, if you've stuck around this long, you get a surprise. 1 second. Now, Toby usually gets a little hello during my live streams, but hasn't actually been in a video in a long time. So he just came to say hello and to have a nice scream. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. So hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Da-da-ba-da-ba-do-ba-do-ba-do-do. I don't even know what song that is. It's like sort of like the Addams Family. Da-da-da-da. Snap, snap. Oh, he hates it. He hates it. He hates it. Okay, we have to go. Goodbye.